Deepfakes, they're getting pretty serious. Well, you don't want to call the police or your child will get hurt. They're like, oh my gosh, they didn't answer. I need to pay. That's pretty important, you guys. Welcome back to DIY Security. So we got a bit of a trigger warning in this video. It may be a little bit unsettling. We're going to talk about the dark reality of virtual kidnappings. And in this video, we'll explore real life cases and hypothetical scenarios. We'll talk a bit about also breaking down some of the psychological and emotional forces at play. So stick with me as we dive into some of the science of the brain, uncovering why these terrifying scams actually work, and most importantly, how you can protect yourself and your loved ones. Without further ado, let's get into it.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me?
So, yeah, you guys, I'm sure you've heard about deepfakes.
But you know that Morgan Freeman video was not real.
They're getting pretty serious.
That mother back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can.
So this we'll kind of go over a few of these articles. Got right here from the FBI.gov, virtual kidnappings. This was dated back in 2017. And as usual, we're not really gonna go through and read the entire article. I've already kind of taken some notes and bits and pieces. I found this to be very useful. Don't become a victim. So yeah, just first, let's talk about, what is virtual kidnapping? Well, recently I've had actually a couple people hit me up on TikTok, or it's brought to my attention, and I've hit up some people on TikTok that I've saw some videos on that they were talking about them almost or being a victim of virtual kidnapping from their kids, actually, supposedly them thinking that their kids are getting kidnapped. And so what a virtual kidnapping is a psychological extortion scam that tricks the victims into believing a loved one has been kidnapped. So unlike traditional abductions, no one is really physically kidnapped. Instead, the scammers are using deception, threats, and increasingly advanced technology to coerce victims into paying ransoms quickly. And as I mentioned, this is an older article. This has been going on for a while. And so the evolution of the scam, it actually started back way early 2013, 2015. And apparently from the research I've gathered up, it originated supposedly from Mexican prisons. That's from the articles. I'm sure it could have been anywhere, but the articles that I was reading and gathered up, they're saying that it originated in Mexican prisons. They targeted Spanish-speaking victims through phone calls, and the calls relied on recordings of screamings victims and specific targeting of, affluent areas like Beverly Hills. So shifting to 2015, apparently the calls expanded to English speakers, and the tactics shifted kind of towards like cold calling, where they would cold call hundreds of numbers or even thousands of numbers, increasing the pool of potential victims. So getting to the juicy part, how does the scam even work? First, of course, they have initial contact. The scammers would cold call the victims and play distressing sounds like screams, and they immediately would ask for a loved one's name. Is this Mary or Bob or whoever it may be? And then they would more than likely, it's all going off of these cues though. So they would sometimes, like in the situation or the scenario that this victim that I saw on TikTok, she had claimed that her child, she'd gotten a phone call, and then basically the person was making it sound like her child was okay. So first she could hear screaming. That was the first cue. So, and she said that it sounded like her kid's voice, she recognized it. But then he calmed her down and was like, no, it's okay, but there has been an incident. And then he almost makes it, he's using these cues to try to mess with her mind. It was like, well, actually there's been an incident, and making it seem like he's the hero of some sort. Like, well, she almost ran in front of my car. She almost got hit by another car, so I helped her, type of deal. So now she's like, oh, okay, thank you. Like, you helped my child. But it ends up turning south pretty quick when, she was trying to drill him for the information. Okay, where can we meet? Do I got to go to school? Oh no, she finds out that he's not at the school. So she's thinking, oh, well, what the heck? Like, is this person, like, is my kid at somebody else's house? Like, and she mentioned something about calling the police. And then as soon as she mentioned something about calling the police, that's when the tone changed, and he made a threat saying, well, you don't want to call the police or your child will get hurt. So boom, that's another cue. Instantly, somebody tells you your child's going to get hurt. Now you're probably, there's something in your brain called the amygdala. And we'll get into that, but it basically, it's triggering a fight or flight response, right? Make a long story short, she eventually, luckily, she ended up going all the way to the bank, or her dad went to the bank. One way or another, she had other people that she had told about this. She was in a panic, but she was pretty much willing to do anything at the moment. And luckily, the father, or her father, was able to call the school and verify, even though she wasn't able to, somebody else was able to verify that her child actually was at school. And, basically the jig was up.
Everybody, give me everything. Where's the money?
The scam was over. So, like I said, they would make the threats, and then they would demand a ransom. So yeah, they were trying to get her to wire some money to trade for her child, and a lot of times it'd be small amounts, like $2,000 or less, apparently, via wire transfer, or sometimes the larger sums they'll do like a drop designated location. And so apparently, yeah, on this site here, they said that over 87,000 was extorted in one FBI case. $87,000 for this virtual kidnapping, basically, in just one case. That's pretty crazy. I mean, people, you'd be surprised. I mean, like, and you may think, oh, I would never do that, and it's hard to put yourself in someone's shoes if you don't have kids, but me, myself, I have kids, and that's why I warned in the beginning of the video, it can be triggering, especially, I apologize if people have actually gone through it and fell victim to this, because, but it's the whole reason I'm bringing this up, to bring awareness. I'm not trying to teach anybody how to do this. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I want you to understand it, and we're going to dive into ways that you can possibly prevent it. Some of the things they're saying: callers go to great lengths to keep you on the phone, insisting that you remain on the line. This is straight from the FBI. So calls do not come from suspended victims' phones. Calls do not come from the supposed victim's phone, which in modern day, like I said, this is from 2017, but there is something called SIM swapping, and an attacker could actually pay to basically take over your phone number or your loved one's phone number. And so it may be a call from, say, your kid, or it says it on your contacts, when they call, and it may sound just like them. But with deep fakes and AI, we need to, more than ever, be trying to think of ways to mitigate or double check, cross-reference, really think critically on how we can verify that it is that person. I like this one. It says, in most cases, the best course of action is just to hang up the phone. And they say, this is a really good one. Ask questions that only the alleged kidnapped victim would know, such as the name of a pet. Maybe that might be easily known. So, maybe I would ask my kids or my loved one, what is the song that I put on every Friday? Or something like really personal. What is the book that I read you every night before you go to bed? Something like that. You can get really personal and intimate, most likely, even if you are hearing your child's voice and they can't answer a simple question that's really intimate, then, you more than anyone know your significant other or your child. So listen carefully to the voice, attempt contact with the alleged victim, text. And like I said, sometimes whenever they do these SIM swap or these hijacking of a phone number, sometimes whenever you try to call back, so the way it works, you a lot of times can't call them back. It'll just go straight to like a busy message. It won't even go to voicemail. It just won't work. So you need to have other ways. And that actually will make people want to pay out even more, because they're like, oh my gosh, they didn't answer. I need to pay because something's going to happen. But and that's another. Don't agree to pay ransom by wire or in person. Delivering money in person can be dangerous. So they're saying, if you suspect a real kidnapping is taking place, or you believe a random demand or scheme, contact your nearest FBI office or law enforcement immediately. Okay, trust me, you should definitely listen to that advice. They have cyber guys and law enforcement. They also have cyber guys in FBI that will be very vigilant and be on the case as quickly as possible. So going back, one of these other articles, I'm just going to click on it. We're not really going to go into it, but one of them that was cool, it's a newer article, 2023, Trend Micro. This actually kind of gave too much information, too many details that I really don't think that I want to share, because they go into exactly how it's done. So I don't think that's really what I want to share. So as I was mentioning, in modern methods, they're using deepfakes in AI. They could even use videos to fool you nowadays. You don't know. Scammers now exploit deepfake technologies and AI voice synthesis to impersonate loved ones more convincingly. Scammers can do SIM swaps, as I talked about, basically temporary hijacking of a phone number that looks familiar. Usually when this happens, the hijacked number cannot receive calls and increases the chance of payouts. Attackers can replicate a family member's voice using a few seconds of audio from social media or sometimes even a voicemail. If you have a long enough voicemail, they could just use that voice sample. Victims hear what sounds like their loved ones pleading for help, which enhances that emotional manipulation. So now I told you guys we would talk about the psychological impact and some of the stuff like what's going on in the brain. You might think, I would never get fooled like that. But as I mentioned, we got the Amygdala effect. And it's actually a study that was going on. So quick shout out to the Papertrail Podcast with Pap and Grant. So recently they had a guest on their show, a researcher by the name of Somik and Professor Rohid. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced your guys' name, but they shared their insights on their research on the Amygdala hijacking and phishing scams. I'm just basically trying to add on to that a little bit and giving kind of my 2 cents of how I felt things correlated. And yeah, I just feel like this is an important topic to bring up too. But so if you're not subscribed to their podcast, or if you haven't heard of the Papertrail Podcast, you should definitely go check them out. And yeah, if you're not already subscribed to me, make sure you hit that like button. You know, it helps the algorithm. And why don't you hit that subscribe if you like what you see so far. So getting back to it anyway, there was my little free plug there. So the Amygdala, it's kind of a weird name. And when I first heard about it in this research, actually, I'm not really I'm not too good into science or human brain, but I had to do some research myself whenever they started talking about this Amygdala effect. And Amygdala, it sounds like I'm speaking in another language, right? So first off, Amygdala, it's actually derived from a Greek word, amygdal, which means almond. So pretty much this whole little thing was named after almond from the Greek word because it's about the size of an almond. But anyway, let's get back into it. The amygdala is responsible for the fear response. The amygdala is part of the brain's limbic system. It triggers emotional and survival responses when there's a threat perceived. In high stress situations like virtual kidnappings, the fight or flight response is activated. Logical thinking diminishes as the brain prioritizes survival. Victims become highly susceptible to suggestions, often bypassing critical thinking. Scammers exploit these reactions by keeping the victims on the phone and creating urgency and preventing them from verifying facts. This phenomenon is known as amygdala hijacking. The brain reacts emotionally rather than rationally. Victims may comply with scammers' demands out of fear rather than logic. So that's pretty important, you guys. I mean, it's hard. You've just been told something. Now your adrenaline's pumping. Your heart's racing, and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, I got to do something." But so it's easier said than done. So cues that the scammers use to trigger hijacking, as we mentioned, like screams or cries for help, or like time pressure, like them saying like "pay now or else," or like or else your kid's gonna get hurt, stuff like that. So how deepfake technology amplifies the scam? Of course, so attackers use AI voice clones to make the victim feel certain that their loved one is in danger. This increases the emotional panic, and it reduces the chance of the victim verifying the situation. I mean, honestly, it really just comes down to these cues. You want them safe, and it's sometimes you just don't think. But that's the biggest thing I keep harping on is we want to try to have different ways to verify. We want to be able to think. Let's talk about how can we prevent these virtual kidnapping scams. So first of all, like I said, it's easier said than done. But number one, you want to try to stay as calm as possible. Remember, the scammers are relying on your panic to succeed. You want to try to verify the facts. So attempt to contact the alleged victim directly, if you can, through text, social media, or if you know that they're with someone, try to contact them and ask questions only the real victim would know. As I mentioned, like for me, it would be maybe something like, what is the song that I play every Friday? What book do I read you at night that puts you to sleep? So number 3, don't disclose personal information. Avoid providing any names or identifying details to these potential scammers, or just slow the situation if you can. Just slow down. I know everything's going so fast. You just try to think logically. Request proof of life. such as speaking with the victim directly. Repeat the demands back to buy time. So, just pretty much trying to buy time so you can actually think, right? Avoid ransom payments, of course. Never wire the money or deliver the cash in person, as we mentioned. Allegedly they have your significant other. You don't want to pay, and then they don't even have your kid. Your kid's just at school, or your kid's perfectly fine at his friend's house. And number 6, just hang up and call the person back, or hang up, call the friend that or the school or wherever your loved one is. Try to call to verify the place, to verify their well-being. So most scams will collapse once the victim refuses to engage. Yeah. So lastly, I was actually working on this project called AI Photo Detective, or AI Detective. So this guy right here, DIY Sec. I was trying to make this, basically it was AI that the idea was to take thousands of pictures of normal pictures and give it to the AI. Like when I say normal pictures, human taken pictures, and then the AI would look at the metadata, would analyze the photo, all kind of different things that it could look at that maybe you and I couldn't even recognize. And I would tell the AI, hey, these are photos taken by humans, and these are not AI generated. So with those 1,000, it would check them, go through them, it would say, okay. And then I would take 1,000 AI generated photos and say, hey, these are AI generated photos. And basically, I never finished the project. I got kind of bottlenecked on my computing resources and just kind of lost time and interest, because I started seeing they had this thing on Hugging Face where they were actually already doing like an AI photo detection. When I first started the project, nobody was really doing it. It was almost a year ago. Nobody was really doing that. I thought it was super important to have something like that where you could just upload a photo. And so now they have a few of them out there. If you just type in Google AI image detector, they have this one by Brandwell.ai, and apparently you can just drop some files in here and it's supposed to detect. I've never personally used this, but the one that I used on Hugging Face actually did work pretty well. This one on Hugging Face, this is a video detection, which is pretty cool. And what do you know, like it was updated 2 hours ago. There actually looks like they got a bunch of papers published recently. But yeah, cool stuff. This is scary stuff. So we're going to close it up. Just give y'all a little conclusion. Virtual kidnappings exploit fear and technology to prey on victims' emotions. With the advent of deepfakes and AI voice technology on the rise, these scams can become harder and harder for us to identify, but not impossible for us to counter with critical thinking and verification, as we mentioned. So stay informed, remain calm, and question everything in high stress situations, definitely, guys. Well, we're going to close this out, guys. As always, hit that like, subscribe if you enjoyed what you saw. Be the change you want to see, the good change. And until next time, peace out.